Over the years, I've analyzed hundreds of Roth conversions, and there is one factor that has more impact than almost anything else. In fact, I had someone tell me recently on an intro call that they had miscalculated this one component, and he estimated it will cost him over $1 million over the course of his life. It's actually why he decided to reach out to a financial professional. And so I ran the numbers for him, and he was right. It was a massive opportunity cost, and it's the same issue I want to talk with you about today. So in just a minute, I'm going to reveal what that component is or what that factor is and how you can avoid making the same mistake. But first, my name's Kevin Lum. I'm a certified financial planner, and this channel is dedicated to helping 1 million people retire without worry. As you know, depending on your situation, Roth conversions have the potential to save you hundreds of thousands of dollars, sometimes even millions of dollars in taxes over the course of your lifetime. And Roth conversions can also help you avoid retirement situations like paying additional premiums on your Medicare, or having giant RMDs, or paying more tax than you should on your Social Security, or avoiding the widow's penalty. And one of the biggest tools, or one of the best tools in your tax planning tool chest, is a Roth conversion. So today I want to talk about the basics of Roth conversion, the power of tax brackets, and the factors that make Roth conversions successful. And finally, I'm going to walk through a real life scenario using Right Capital, looking at what I believe is one of the most important components that help make Roth conversions successful. For many of you, if you've seen some of my other videos, this may just be a recap, but stay with me to the end because I'm going to pull it all together, and I think some of the numbers might surprise you. So first of all, let's start with the basics. A Roth conversion is when you move money from a traditional IRA or a traditional 401k into a Roth IRA. But there's a catch. There's always a catch. I almost said there's always a tax, which could also be right. You have to pay taxes on the amount you convert. But once it's in the Roth, so you take money from a traditional IRA and you put it in a Roth IRA, it grows tax-free and you'll never pay taxes on that money again. So why would you want to do this? Or why is this so important? Because in retirement, having tax-free money gives you way more control over your income and your tax situation. And without proper tax planning and without proper income control, you could find yourself facing large RMDs, which can cause a ripple effect, higher tax rates, Medicare surcharges, and taxes on your Social Security benefit. But the key to a successful Roth conversion is managing your tax brackets, because Roth conversions are taxed as ordinary income. And so as you do a Roth conversion, you want to pay close attention to what tax bracket you're converting in. Now, tax brackets are how the IRS decides how much money you owe based on your income. But as you know, you don't pay the same rate on all your income, only the portion that falls within each bracket. So let me just give you a quick refresher. Think of tax brackets like a waterfall. The first portion of your income is taxed at the lowest rate. The next portion of your income is taxed at a slightly higher rate, and this continues as your income increases, where it starts off fairly low and gets extremely high. So let's say the tax brackets are as follows. You pay 10% on the first $11,600 you earn. You pay 12% of your income on anything from $11,601 to $47,150. And then you pay 22% of your income on anything above $47,150. So you don't pay 22% tax on all $50,000, only on the portion above $47,150. So here's a chart, and I just stole this off the internet, but I thought this illustrated it really well on a larger dollar amount. This person earns $240,000 a year. They're married filing jointly. So first they fill up the 10% bracket, then they filled up the 12%, then they filled up the 22%, and then they spilled over into the 24% tax bracket. So in each additional dollar they earn up to a certain limit, they're going to pay 24% tax. But they could still earn another $140,000 or thereabouts without crossing into the next tax bracket, without crossing into the 32% tax bracket. So why does this matter for Roth conversions? Roth conversions add to your taxable income. They're taxed as ordinary income, just like your W-2 job, which means you need to be mindful of the brackets when converting it. This is why people often talk about filling a tax bracket when they talk about converting, right? So if you were trying to fill the 24% tax bracket, you might consider doing a $140,000 Roth conversion. Okay, that's the basics. For those of you who are experts on Roth conversions and you've got spreadsheets and you've got taped up to your computer the tax rates and all that, I apologize. Thank you for sitting with me. Now let's talk about the factors that make a Roth conversion more successful. So first of all, investment selection. The higher the expected rate of return on the investment, the more powerful the Roth conversion can become, because the more that the money grows tax-free inside the Roth, the bigger the benefit. So if you put $100,000 into a Roth and you put it all in a money market fund, it's probably not worth doing a Roth conversion. But if you put $100,000 in a Roth and you invest it in the stock market or maybe a balanced portfolio and it grows at 7 or 8% a year, then it might make sense to do a Roth conversion. So the first thing that matters is the investment selection. The second thing that matters is the tax bracket. Smart Roth conversions use the fill the bracket strategy, converting just enough to stay within a lower tax bracket. And so you want to be mindful of the optimal tax bracket for your situation. And here's the problem. It is not a one-size-fits-all decision. Some people should convert at the 12% tax bracket. Some people should convert at the 37% tax bracket. There are a number of other factors that go into the formula, but you want to pay attention to the tax bracket, because if you're one of the people who should be converting at the 12% tax bracket and you're converting at the 37% tax bracket, it's likely that there's going to be diminishing returns. I often get frustrated when I read articles or I hear other people talking and they try to create a blanket rule. Well, you should never convert above the 22% tax bracket. Why? It is just one factor among many that you should consider. So anyway, let's continue on. Another important component to pay attention to that goes into the formula is, do you have any cash on the outside of your IRA or your 401k to pay for the Roth conversion? Now, just because you don't have any outside cash doesn't mean it's not a good idea to do a Roth conversion, but it does help to maximize the Roth conversion or the power of the Roth conversion when you can use cash from outside your retirement account. If you pay for the conversion from inside of the IRA, the conversion has less power. So for example, let's say you do a $100,000 Roth conversion and you don't pay the taxes from outside, and your tax bill, let's say for easy math, is $30,000. Then if you do a $100,000 Roth conversion, only $70,000 goes into the Roth. The other $30,000 goes to the federal government, which limits the long-term tax-free growth. But there's another factor, and this is what I really want to focus on for this video. The earlier you convert, the more time your money has to grow tax-free, and the more powerful the long-term impact of the conversion. Often there's this period of time between retirement and reaching your RMD age, referred to as the golden window for Roth conversion. And it makes sense from a theoretical perspective. It seems to make sense that you would want to wait until you retire, maybe even retire a bit earlier, to use that golden period for Roth conversions, because you're going to have the lowest income of your life. And if you're really smart, you can keep your income artificially low. And so therefore you can convert more money into your IRA in a lower tax bracket. And one of the things you want to pay attention to is your tax bracket. But what people often overlook is that depending on the amount of money in your tax-deferred accounts and your current income, it might, and I should underline might, maybe the editor can underline it for me, it might make sense to begin doing a Roth conversion while you're still working. Because if you're one of those people who should convert to, say, the top of the 24% tax bracket and you make $200,000 a year, you might have $200,000 of space that you could begin utilizing while you're still working. And if you're living below your means, you could use some of your additional income to help pay for those Roth conversions. As with everything, it is situation dependent. So what I want to do is I want to go to Right Capital and I want to look at a scenario using Phil and Claire where they are 60 years old today, they are still working, and where they plan on retiring at age 65. And so what I want to do is see, should Phil and Claire begin to convert while they're still working, or should they wait until that golden period for Roth conversions after they retire before RMDs begin? So I'm going to switch over to my other screen and I'll walk you through this scenario. So here we have Phil and Claire's situation. They are both still working. Phil makes $120,000 a year. Claire makes $120,000 a year. As you'll notice, there's not a lot of nuance in this plan, keeping everything pretty basic. They won't have any other income in retirement other than their Social Security, and we're using their estimated numbers here. And they have about $700,000 each in their 401k. So between the two of them, they have $1.4 million in a tax deferred account. They own their home, but they don't have any cash on the outside to pay for Roth conversions. The other thing I think that's important to know is that currently, even though they make $240,000 a year, Phil and Claire are spending about $8,000 a month. They pay their home off, they live fairly frugally, so they've got quite a bit of extra income that they could use to help pay for the Roth conversions if they decided to. So let's go over here to the retirement tab. So here we are at the retirement tab. We're going to put them in a slightly more aggressive portfolio, an 80-20. We're going to have them claim the optimal strategy for Social Security, which it looks like for both of them is claiming at age 70. We're going to give them the retirement spending smile, and we have them retire at age 65, both of them. We have Phil living to age 92. We have Claire living to age 95. And I think we have the retirement expenses at $8,000 a month as well. So that's kind of the base for this scenario. So what I want to do is I want to go over the tax tab. And if you have a version of Right Capital, or if you're using Right Capital, you are not going to see when you log in, you won't see all these tabs. The last I checked, I didn't have the ability to turn all these on. I will check to see if anything changes, or if it changes, I will turn them on. And if you want to play with a more limited version, I will put a link in the description below. You can create an account and kind of play with it. But I'm going to go to the tax analyzer, which is something new. And I'm going to go to their ordinary income tax bracket. So you can see they earn $240,000 a year, which takes them up to this line right here. But this line up here is the top of the 24% tax bracket. So if they were going to do a Roth conversion and it made sense for them to convert to the top of the 24% tax bracket, even though they're still working, they have quite a bit of space to convert. So let's see how much more they could convert and stay underneath the top of that bracket. So let's add another $200,000. So let's take them up to $440,000. And see what happens here. Now they kind of crossed into the 32% tax bracket. So let's pull it back just slightly. Let's do 420. Let's see what happens. And so as you can notice, they're still in the 24% tax bracket. So they can convert a large chunk of money and still stay inside of the 24% tax bracket. So now let's go to the tax strategies tab and see what level they should convert to. So here we're going to go. We're going to convert. Right now, we got them going to the top of the 24% tax bracket, and we have them converting at Phil's retirement. And the tax adjusted ending benefit of doing a Roth conversion is about $343,000 more, and they save about $1.2 million in taxes. And so even though it's going to save them a lot of money in taxes, it's going to reduce their ending portfolio value because they had to pay the tax up front, so that money doesn't have as much room to grow. So it still seems to make sense for Phil and Claire to do a Roth conversion. So let's go down here. Let's check maybe 22% will work better. So we go here. Turns out it actually makes more sense for Phil and Claire to convert to the top of the 22% tax bracket, not the top of the 24. But I want to play with it. And I want to say, what would happen if Phil actually went ahead, or Phil and Claire actually started doing a Roth conversion today? So they're not going to wait until they retire. They're age 60 today. They're going to retire at age 65. So they got 5 years. What would happen if they converted today? And when we look at the top of the 22% tax bracket, no impact. Why? Because they're earning over the top of the 22% tax bracket. Doesn't make sense. Doesn't have any impact. But let's say, what happens if they go back to the 24% tax bracket? Does it make an impact? And it turns out now it went from making like a $300,000 or $400,000 impact to a $2.4 million impact because they've got extra cash sitting around. And so instead of spending on other things, getting ready for retirement or paying down their mortgage or, different things that people do as they get near retirement, if they took that money and redirected it towards a Roth conversion, it could make a massive impact over their lifetime. Now we can go back over to the tax analyzer. And we can say, how much more in tax, if they have $240,000 in income and they end up converting enough to take them up to $420,000, so just right underneath the top of the 24% tax bracket, so they do a big Roth conversion, how much is that going to cost them? So they're going to do $180,000 in Roth conversions. In federal tax, it's going to cost them about $43,000. So then they can decide, we're only spending $8,000 a month. We're earning way more than that. And so there are other variables they need to consider as well, right? Do they continue contributing to their 401k? Because what that does is it lowers their taxable income and creates more room inside of that 24% tax bracket. But it also takes cash out of their pocket that they could be using to pay for Roth conversions. And so you could play with this variable. I mean, you could go on all day looking at the different variables. So as you can see, at least in this situation, beginning your Roth conversions while you're still working could, and I underscore could, have a massive impact on the long-term benefits of the Roth conversion. But it's not for everyone. First, you need to know what your ideal tax bracket is for the Roth conversion. If it's a low tax bracket, chances are your income will push you over and you are better off waiting until that golden period for Roth conversions after you retire before you start RMDs. Second, it's really helpful if you have enough extra cash flow or cash sitting around to pay for the conversions out of pocket. If not, it might not be a game changer, but it can make it less attractive. So let's say you're sold. You're ready to start converting while you're still working. How would you do this? So you have a couple options. One is an in-plan Roth conversion. If your workplace has a traditional 401k and a Roth 401k, they may allow you to convert the money from the traditional 401k to the Roth 401k. It's called an in-plan conversion. So you could just leave the money in your 401k and you could do that while you're still working. And the other option, and this is going to apply to a larger group of people because a lot of workplaces don't allow for in-plan conversions, but you can roll the money out of your 401k into a traditional IRA if your employer allows for it. And there are a number of caveats. You can take the money out of your 401k. You can still continue contributing to it, but you take the money out of your 401k. You can put it in your traditional IRA, and then you can begin doing Roth conversions. Now, if you're going to do conversions while you're still working, you're going to do rollovers. There's caveats and risks, but that is for another video. Now, I'd be curious to know your thoughts on this strategy. When did you start converting, or when are you thinking about starting to convert? Leave your comments. And as always, I'm going to give you a link to play with the software. But just as a reminder, it's very limited compared to what you saw me using in this video, but hopefully it will help get you started. And if you haven't seen my video on why you shouldn't do a Roth conversion, you can watch it now.